Hello everyone and welcome to my Soap Twist 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The chapel smelled like lilies and wax, the kind of perfume that stays with you long after the event has passed. Hope stood at the rear in a beautiful cream-colored dress, her veil trembling with each breath. 200 people shuffled in their pews, programs flapping like trapped birds. Liam waited at the altar in a charcoal suit, his hands clutched so tightly that his knuckles became white. The organist raised her fingers to the keys, paused, and then lowered them into the first bars of Pachelbel's canon. Hope's father, Arthur, extended his arm.
His palm was wet.
"Are you ready, darling?" he whispered. She nodded, though the word ready felt like a lie in her Sunday attire. Her tummy, 3 months advanced and still delightfully flat beneath the empire waist, produced a lurch that was not caused by nerves. The nausea had become a private friend, arriving at dawn and leaving by midday, as if the child inside her kept office hours. They processed. Each step resonated against the high ceiling. Hope kept her gaze fixed on Liam, looking for the boy who had kissed her under the oak tree outside her parents' house and promised her forever with a ring snap and a smile. The man at the altar appeared to be carved from the same wood as the pews, polished, hard, and alien. When she approached him, Arthur kissed her cheek and retreated. The clergyman, Reverend Caldwell, opened his leather-bound book. "Dearly beloved." Liam's gaze shifted to her tummy, then away and back again. The muscle in his jaw trembled. Hope's pulse pounded so hard that she nearly missed the Reverend's following remarks. Liam raised his hand, asking if anyone could provide a valid reason why these two should not be linked. The assembly inhaled like a single organism. "I can," he replied. His voice cracked like a whip in the silence. Reverend Caldwell blinked. "I have cause. Mr. Harrow, this is really unusual. It isn't my child." Liam's words cut through the sanctuary, clean and harsh. "Hope is pregnant, and it isn't mine." A collective gasp rang out. Someone dropped a hymnal, which thudded like a gunshot. Hope felt the floor tilt. She grasped Liam's sleeve to keep herself upright, but he flinched away, as if her touch hurt. "Liam," she said, "please." He stared at the pews, eyes flashing. We haven't been together since June. She told me last night. 3 months. Do the arithmetic." Hope's mother stood halfway, then sunk back, hand clamped against her mouth. Arthur looked like he had been struck. Liam's sister, Mara, sat in the front row, looking at Hope with a mix of sympathy and pride. Reverend Caldwell shut his book with a quiet snap. "Perhaps we should adjourn to the vestry." "No," Liam exclaimed. "Everybody should hear this. I am not marrying her. I am not rearing another man's child." The organist's hands hovered, forgotten. A baby screamed somewhere in the background. Hope felt a quick, urgent kick from the child inside her, as if rejecting the already passed verdict. She discovered her voice. "It's yours, Liam. I vow on, save it." He took the ring from his pocket, the platinum band they had picked together at a jeweler in Portland, and put it into her palm. His fingertips felt icy. "We're done." He walked down the aisle. The guests separated like the Red Sea. The huge oak doors slammed shut behind him. Sunlight poured through the stained glass, painting the floor in shattered blues and reds, as if the church was bleeding. Hope stood alone at the altar, veil drooping, bouquet trembling in her hands. The lilies had started to wilt. 3 months ago, the night was warm and sticky, with honeysuckle. Hope and Liam had a disagreement in the parking lot of the Roadhouse bar after her shift. She smelt of fryer grease and cheap beer, while he reeked of bourbon and hatred. "You're always working," he'd mumbled. "When's my turn?" "I'm saving for us," she'd said abruptly. For the wedding, the house. He'd kissed her hard and desperately, pushing her against his vehicle. They fumbled in the cab, the windows fogged, and the radio played an old country ballad about lost love. It had been swift, sloppy, and ended nearly before it began. He drove her home silently, knuckles white on the steering wheel. The following morning, he apologized with coffee and a guilty grin. "It was a rough night." "Okay, Let's not quarrel anymore. She'd forgiven him because it was easier than being lonely, and the ring on her fingers still glittered with hope. They hadn't slept together again. Liam claimed tiredness from extra stints at the mill, wedding stress, and his mother's cancer worry. Hope reminded herself that it was just temporary. They were adults, and their desires fluctuated. She poured herself into organizing, sampling pastries, writing invitations in her meticulous calligraphy, and arranging napkins into swans. Then the sickness began. Then came the test, 2 pink lines in the gas station bathroom, with fluorescent lights buzzing like hornets. She had sat on the toilet lid, completely dressed, watching till the stick blurred. Liam's reaction was quiet. "Are you sure?" he asked, his eyes fixed on his phone. She had nodded. He hugged her awkwardly and swore they'd work things out. But that night, he had slept on the couch. The following night, too. By the time she was 8 weeks pregnant, they had separate beds in the small apartment above the bakery, where she worked during the day. She had begun to suspect the truth at that point, but she buried it deep. Liam's late nights, the strange cologne on his collar, the way he cringed whenever she touched him. She approached him once, her voice shaking. "Are you seeing anyone?" He'd laughed too loudly and sharply. "You are paranoid. It's stress." The wedding approached. Hope assured herself that the baby would mend things. A family. A fresh start. She purchased pregnancy jeans in secret and hid them in the back of her closet like contraband. In the church vestry, Reverend Caldwell poured her a paper cup of water with shaky hands. "My dear, can I call anyone?" Hope's mother came through the door, her face blotchy with weeping. "Hope Elizabeth, what in God's name? Not now, Mom." Hope's voice was strange and scratchy. She laid the cup down undisturbed. "I need air." She dashed out a side door into the garden, where brides stood for photographs. The roses were past their peak, with yellowing petals along the edges. She collapsed onto a stone seat, her clothing pouring around her like spilled milk. Mara appeared with arms crossed. Liam's sister had never liked her since she was very ambitious, noisy, and everything Mara wasn't. "He's gone," she replied. "Took the truck and left," Hope said, pressing her palm to her stomach. The baby kicked again, pressing his small hand on her palm. "Did he say where?" "Does it matter?" Mara's tone softened slightly. "I hope he's my brother, but 3 months. You do the math." "I am," Hope said softly. "And it adds up to June 23rd. The roadhouse." Mara's eyebrows rose. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." Mara took a long look at her before sighing. "He is an imbecile, but he's hurting." "So am I," Mara said before leaving without saying anything further. Hope remained until the sun fell low, turning the sky the color of bruised peaches. She did not go home. There were too many ghosts in the apartment, including Liam's razor in the shower, his boots by the entrance, and the prenatal photo she had tacked to the fridge. Instead, she drove to the seaside with the windows down, salt wind tearing her hair free of its pins. The beach was deserted, and waves hissed against the sand. She kicked off her heels and headed to the water's edge. The hem of her garment darkened with foam. She spoke to the ocean with a rough voice. "I did not cheat. I would not. But he won't trust me now." The flood washed her words away. She checked into a motel with crumbling paint and a flashing neon sign. The clerk, an older woman with sympathetic eyes, did not inquire about the bridal attire or the tear trails. She merely handed over the key with a compassionate grin. That night, Hope laid on an uncomfortable mattress and wrote a list on motel stationery. "Tell my parents the truth, whatever that is. Find a doctor in Portland for a fresh start. Get a second job since the baby needs stuff. And stop loving Liam Harrow." She underlined the last one 3 times before crossing it out. Certain things could not be erased with ink. Meanwhile, Liam drove north till the tank ran dry outside a dive pub in Astoria. He drank until the bartender stopped him, then slept in the vehicle with the windows cracked and seagulls shrieking overhead. In the morning, his phone buzzed with missed calls from his mother, Mara, and even Hope. He removed them all. At a petrol station, he purchased a burner phone and texted his boss, Family emergency.
Need a week.
He traveled inward, through moss-covered forests, filled with remorse. By evening, he was in the mountains at a lodge he'd leased with Hope for their honeymoon. Ironically, non-refundable. The key was under the mat, just as promised. Inside, dust motes danced in the flashlight beam. The bed was unmade during the realtor's staging. Liam perched on the edge, staring at his hands. They resembled his father's, calloused, capable, and deceitful. He remembered Hope's expression in the cathedral, and how her mouth had formed his name like a question. He remembered the ultrasound she'd shown him, grainy black and white, a comma of a human. His stomach twisted. What if she is telling the truth? He asked the empty room. The cabin gave no response. Hope's parents showed up at the motel 2 days later, faces drawn. Her mother carried a Tupperware container of lasagna, while her father carried a duffel bag containing her clothing. They sat on the bed as Hope washed, emerging in sweatpants and one of Liam's old flannels that she couldn't bear to take off. "We believe you," Arthur replied simply. "But the town, I know." Hope tugged at a thin thread. "They will talk. Let them." Her mother placed the lasagna on the dresser. "You're coming home. The guest room is yours for as long as you need." Hope shook her head. "I cannot. Not yet." She wanted space, a place where no one recognized her as the jilted wife with the secret kid. She chose Portland, large enough to disappear. She'd sublet her flat, sell the dress on eBay, and start anew. Liam stayed in the Highlands for a week. He trekked till his legs gave out, fished until his fingers ached, and drank until the whiskey tasted like water. On the 7th night, a storm swept in, sending thunder crashing through the cabin. He had a dream about Hope standing in church, belly distended, cradling a dark-haired infant with his gaze. She stared at him with grief, not anger. "You left us," she stated. "Both of us." He awoke gasping, rain slamming against the windows. He packed his duffel at dawn and drove south. Hope located a studio apartment above a vegan cafe in southeast Portland. The walls were exposed brick, and the shower dripped in Morse code. She painted the nursery nook butter yellow and strung a mobile of paper cranes. At night, she read parenting manuals and ate ice cream from the carton, whispering to her stomach, "We're enough, you and me." She found a job at a bookstore, charming the owner with her knowledge of obscure poetry. Customers adore her advice, and tips filled a jar labeled college fund. On her days off, she went down the riverbank, watching ships drift like lazy thoughts. One afternoon, 6 months pregnant and as round as a pumpkin, she felt eyes on her. She turned to see Liam across the path, thinner, bearded, and holding a paper cup as a shield. They were staring. Traffic flowed between them. Eventually he crossed. "Hi. Hi." Her voice remained steady, a minor miracle. "You look," he gestured at her belly.
Good.
"Thank you." She waited. The ball was in his court. "I was wrong," he said. The statements appeared to cost him. "I did the maths again. June 23rd. We were together." "I know. I'm sorry." His eyes widened. "I felt afraid. My father abandoned me when I was 7 years old, and my pregnant mother disappeared. I thought history was repeating itself." Hope's throat clenched. "You did not ask. You just decided." "I understand," he said, swallowing. "I've been seeing a counselor. Working on it. I do not expect forgiveness. I just needed to say it to your face." She studied him. The man she had loved was still present, buried beneath layers of fear and pride. "I'm not the same person I was," she admitted. "This baby, he has changed everything. I am stronger now." "I see that." Silence stretched out, filled with gulls and distant horns. "Would you like to feel?" she inquired unexpectedly. He nodded reverently. She took his hand, rough and familiar, and pushed it against her side. The baby kicked with a solid thump against his palm. Liam's face wrinkled. "God, Hope. That's your son," she explained. "If you want him to be." He gazed at her intently. "I want to earn it. Both of you." She made no promises about how long it would take. But she didn't leave either. They met for coffee the following week, and then the next. Liam took Lama's classes and held her hair when morning sickness returned with a vengeance. He fixed the dripping shower, bought groceries, and read "Good Night Moon" to her belly in a broken voice during the silent portions. Hope's parents paid a visit, cautious at first, but warmed up when Liam carried their baggage without asking. Mara donated a knitted blanket in the color of sea glass. The town buzz faded, and new scandals emerged. On a clear October morning, Hope's water broke in the bookshop aisle between science fiction and romance. Liam drove like a crazy, one hand on the steering wheel, the other holding hers. He never left her side at the hospital, not for the epidural, not for the pushing, not even as the doctor lifted a squalling, red-faced son into the world. Hope muttered, "Ethan," and named him after her grandfather. Liam severed the cable with shaky hands. Later, in the quiet room with rain tapping against the window, Liam held his son for the first time. Ethan's small fist curled around his fingertip. "I'm here," Liam muttered. "I'm not going anywhere." Hope watched them, tiredness and love battling in her chest. The road ahead was uncertain. Trust was being rebuilt brick by brick, and there were nights of colic and worry. But in that moment, with her family well and alive, she believed in second chances. Outside, the leaves turned gold, falling like confetti for an unfulfilled wedding and a fulfilled family. The sunshine flooded through the lofty church windows, leaving dust motes twirling like tiny golden secrets in the atmosphere. Rows of white flowers lined the aisle, and their perfume clung to Hope's throat. She stood in front of the mirror in the dressing room, hands trembling slightly as she adjusted the lace on her veil. Everything was supposed to be perfect, the dress, the day, and the promise. After years of fantasizing, Sarah was finally marrying Liam. But beneath her smile, her heart was racing. She'd been awake all night, staring at the ceiling of her flat, listening to the echo of her own breathing and the little, unstoppable flutter deep within her body. A heartbeat that was not her own. Only a week earlier, the doctor verified her pregnancy. She was 8 weeks along. She'd wanted to tell Liam straight immediately, but fear had kept her from saying anything after seeing the delight in his eyes as he planned the honeymoon, fussing over the guest list and the vows. There was so much at risk that she could not articulate. There had been a mistake, one she hoped would never be discovered. When the door opened, Claire, her best friend, peeked inside. "Are you ready, Hope? Everyone is waiting. Liam looks like he's going to pass out." Hope laughed softly, despite her parched throat. "Only approximately." Claire gave her a reassuring grin before leaving. Hope returned to the glass and gently rested her palm against her abdomen. "Please," she said quietly, "don't ruin this for me." Down the hall, in the groom's room, Liam fixed his tie for the 100th time. He was nervous, not because he questioned Hope, but because he loved her so deeply. He'd always been the one to seek stability, to repair things before they failed. Hope was his calm and reason. After everything they'd been through, breakups, misunderstandings, years of almosts, this was their forever. When the ceremonial music began, everyone rose. The doors opened, and Hope emerged, blazing in white. Liam's breath caught. For that one moment, the entire globe became silent. He only saw her, the lady he battled so hard to keep. However, that wonderful moment lasted only seconds before the world began to unravel. Halfway through the ceremony, while the priest discussed honesty and trust, Liam noticed a movement. Someone stood in the back, a man he hadn't expected to see again. Thomas. Liam's stomach sank. Thomas Forrester is Hope's ex, the man who once exploited her and nearly ended their love. He was supposed to be out of the country and long gone. Yet there he stood, still, his countenance unreadable. He carried something in his hand, a white envelope. Liam attempted to concentrate, but the priest's words blurred. When the vows began, he noticed Thomas approach closer. Hope's eyes flickered to the man for a brief moment, but it was enough. Liam detected panic in her eyes. His pulse quickened. The priest's voice seemed distant now. "Liam, do you take Hope? Wait, Liam interjected abruptly, his voice cutting through the silence. Murmurs spread among the guests. Hope's face became pallid. Liam moved closer, his hand quivering slightly as he reached into Thomas's outstretched grasp and grasped the envelope. "What is this?" Liam inquired, his voice quiet. Thomas gazed at Hope and then back at Liam. "You should read it." Hope parted her lips, but said nothing. Liam ripped open the packet. Inside were printed sheets, including a paternity report. His eyes scanned the words, and his breath came to a halt when he reached the most important line. Probability of paternity, 0%. He looked up, bewilderment etched on his face. "Hope, are you pregnant?" Tears welled in her eyes. "Liam, I was going to tell you." "What? Are you carrying his child?" His voice boomed across the church. Guests gasped, and the priest stepped aside. "You are going to marry me knowing it wasn't my child?" Hope's hands shook. "It's not as you think. Please let me explain." "There is nothing to explain." He flung the papers aside, and they drifted to the floor like white ashes. "You lied to me." "I didn't mean to," her voice cracked. "I didn't know what to do." Thomas stepped nearer, his expression unreadable. "She did not lie, Liam. It was one night. We were both lost and sad after you split up." Liam whirled on him, hate flashing in his eyes. "You stay out of this." Hope sought for Liam's hand, but he backed away, shaking his head. "I can't believe this," he said softly, his voice quivering. "All this time, I thought you loved me enough to be honest." "I do love you," she said me. "That was a mistake. I didn't even realize I was pregnant until lately." "So, why didn't you tell me?" "Because I was afraid you'd abandon me," she explained through tears. "I was scared exactly this, would happen." The congregation remained silent. Liam's heart hammered against his ribs, as if it were attempting to escape. He looked around. The guests were gazing, the priest was frozen, the flowers appeared false, and the air was too heavy to breathe. "I can't do this," he finally admitted, his voice lifeless. "I can't marry someone who lies to me." He turned away, pulling off his boutonniere, and let it to fall. Hope called his name, but he did not glance back. He walked straight down the aisle, past the startled guests, and out the church doors into the bright sunlight. Outside, the sound of birds seemed unnaturally normal. Liam slumped against his car, hands on his knees, unable to breathe. Everything felt surreal. The wedding, the dress, the vows, all gone in an instant. His thoughts replayed every discussion, every smile, wondering how long she'd known, how long she'd been lying.